Hello, everyone. Mrs. Morell here with your warm-up explanation video for the week of January 25th and through 29th. So let's start with the January 25th, 26th warm-ups. That was from Monday, Tuesday. Number 1, female Komodo dragons can reproduce using a process called parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis is a form of asexual reproduction where an unfertilized egg develops into offspring. Which of the following is an advantage of an offspring formed from parthenogenesis? And the correct answer is the advantage is a population can form in a new area from an individual organism. So that means that that single organism can populate an entirely new area by itself. It doesn't have to have a mate. Number 2, which species is most likely to survive changing environmental conditions? And the answer to that question is a species that reproduces sexually, because sexually reproducing organisms, because they get a genetic mix, they have a higher chance of having a trait that helps them survive when environmental conditions change. So the more biodiversity we have, the more adaptable organisms can be. So the correct answer for number 2 was B, a species that reproduces sexually. Number 3, even though the environment changes, a population that occupies a given geographic area will most likely continue to be found in this area if the population passes on those genes that resulted in the favorable adaptations. So as long as conditions, the environment changes, as long as there's adaptability with a population passing on genes that result in favorable adaptations, then the population will continue to exist in that area. Number 4, what is an advantage of a change in pulse rate after exercising? Well, if you'll remember back to our study of the circulatory system carries material, it transports materials. When you exercise, your rate of cellular respiration increases. And as a result of that, cellular waste increases. So an increased blood flow would carry away that excess waste product from the active muscle cells, not allowing it to build up. So the correct answer is the advantage is A, an increased blood flow carrying excess waste products away from the active muscle cells. And number 5, energy drinks have become increasingly popular. Some of these drinks contain large amounts of caffeine, which is known to increase heart rates in most individuals. This effect on the heart rate can be dangerous because it leads to D, an imbalance in homeostasis. When you have caffeine and increased heart rate, pulse rate, but you're not exercising or doing anything to need that increased heart rate, you are out of homeostasis. So the answer is D, an imbalance in homeostasis. And now let's go on to the January 27th and 28th warm-ups. Number 1, blank are obtained by interacting with the environment, learned or taught through experience, but cannot be passed on to the next generation. And the answer to that is learned behaviors. These are things that you learn by interacting with your surroundings, but are not passed on. Every new offspring has to learn them themselves. Number 2, a poison dart frog produces poison to secrete through its skin as a defense mechanism. What type of adaptation is this? And this is a physiological adaptation. It's not an outside structural physical adaptation. It's not a behavioral adaptation. It is a physiological adaptation. It's something that the frog has developed to protect itself. Number 3, to produce large tomatoes that are resistant to cracking and splitting, some seed companies use the pollen from one variety of tomato plant to fertilize a different variety of tomato plant. This process is an example of selective breeding, also known as artificial selection. And finally, number four. Researchers discovered 4 different species of finches on one of the Galapagos Islands. DNA analysis showed that these 4 species shown in the illustration below are closely related, even though they vary in beak shape and size. It is thought that they share a common ancestor. Which factor most likely influenced these differences in beak shape and size? So this question is about how environmental factors can shape evolution. And the correct answer is C. Birds with successful beak adaptations obtained food and survived to have offspring, and pass that beak shape down to their offspring, and it becomes a trait in the population. Finally now, number 5, if an ecosystem is changed through a natural disaster, organisms will have the best chance of survival if their species exhibits genetic variation. If there's no variation and the natural disaster wipes out all of the population, none of them survive. But if there's genetic variation, some of them might adapt. And so, again, biodiversity with genetic variation allows species to be more adaptable to environmental change. So D, their species exhibits genetic variation. So there you have it. If you have any questions, see your science teacher, do your homework, turn it in on time.